Hello everybody. Before I begin this video, I need to address something, because you, the viewer, deserve answers. In my 2026 channel updates video, I mentioned that Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door would be the final video recorded on the old microphone. But after hearing just how much better everything sounds on the new microphone right out of the box, I knew that I had to redo the voiceover. I do need to adjust the auto leveling settings a bit down the road because it's a bit too sensitive, but different problem for a different day. You all have waited far too long. Let's get right into it with Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door with RetroAchievements. Because I've played this game multiple times before, I realized pretty quickly that this would be a pretty easy retro achievement set for me, so I decided to do a few bonus things to mix it up a bit. The moment we get access to the double pane badge, we're going to keep it equipped throughout the entire set. Additionally, Flavio fans can rejoice because we'll be performing a series of glitches that allow us to keep them in our party permanently. So with the game plan laid out, let's now talk about the missable achievements in this set. Most of these are pretty straightforward and are better off covered once you reach that part of the game, but there's a few that are commonly missed that we'll go over now. And by far, the easiest one to miss is going to be defeating Cortez with a Hammerman badge while only using Bobbery, because you have to buy the Hammerman badge from Charlie before you begin Chapter 5. Once you begin the chapter, you can't return to town until after you complete it. So what ends up happening is that a lot of people play up until right before the boss, and then they view the achievement description, and by then it's too late. And the other easiest one to miss is going to be forgetting all the items in Chapter 8. After you defeat Gloomtail, there's a hidden wall that you can blow up with Bobbery that'll lead you to 2 items. But after you complete the observatory area, a staircase lowers and you can no longer get back to Gloomtail's lair, making those 2 items missable. Also, even though you would almost certainly never toss a Jam and Jelly or Ultra Shroom, make sure that you don't grab an item and then immediately toss it, or else it won't count as collected when you leave the area. And then the last one that I think is pretty easy to miss is investing 300 coins into Lumpy. The point of no return for that is the moment that you see the Chapter 4 title screen. And while there are a number of other missables, I think that the rest of them are self-explanatory enough that if you read them before going into the chapter, the structure, title, and description of them should give you a pretty good idea of when they become missable. So we'll cover them as we encounter them. Which means I'll close this section by clarifying that unlike the first Paper Mario, the title entries in TTYD are not missable. If you complete a one-time encounter and you don't get the title log entry, you can view it in Professor Frankly's trash can and it still counts towards the achievement. Which means that it's finally time to begin our adventure, and our first missable achievement just so happens to be within the opening minutes of the game, defeating Lord Crump in only 2 attacks. In other words, you need a super guard. I was a bit rusty here, but thankfully 2 attacks does not mean 2 turns, so you just need to land 2 good action commands, and then you have plenty of turns to land a single super guard. Then once we progress to getting half of our coins stolen from us, we can actually immediately find the bandit and receive them back for our second missable. I also like to go ahead and break Zest's contact lenses early to order a new pair now. After proceeding through the rest of the intro, which gets us the Plane ability, Power Smash badge, and Star Power, we have our third missable achievement for defeating Gus before Blooper. We have just enough resources available though to make this one reasonable. He has 20 HP, and Power Smash hits for 4. And since outside of items Goombella has no means to damage Gus, she takes a front slot in order to take as many hits as possible, giving Mario enough turns to Power Smash. After defeating Gus, we heal up and buy a Fire Flower, and our next missable is for defeating the Blooper while defeating his tentacles at the same time every time. All you have to do is have Goombella move first, use a Fire Flower, and then Power Smash your way through. As we begin Chapter 1 and enter Petal Meadows, in addition to an achievement for finding the Horsetail, we get introduced to a new achievement type, finding every single item in a chapter, and I mean every single item, including coins from blocks, trees, and bushes. Also special thanks to MarioWiki.com because they have an incredibly detailed photo guide showing all of the blocks. But just remember that some of the items will require backtracking. Because the game provides you with both an NPC and a partner that can help you find all of these hidden items, I'm not going to cover them in depth. Continuing onward, even though we found a POW block on the way to Schwank Fortress, we want to buy 2 more from the shop. The first 2 are straightforward enough, it's the easiest way to deal with the bristles unless you're good at super guarding, and then once we reach the quiz, we have to fail it for an optional missable battle with 4 clefs, and that can easily be won with that third POW block. The big pickup in the fortress for us is going to be the multi-bounce badge, which will come in handy later on, and this is also the first area that I know of that has items and blocks that are exclusive to the remaster. If an easy to find photo of it exists, I'll add it in the editing, but I'm generally not going to cover it because I haven't played the remaster. Once we reach the Golden Fuzzy mini-boss, we have another missable for defeating him while taking less than 3 damage total. All you need are the standard guards because he only hits for 1 damage. But if you're still learning the ropes and you're struggling to get the guard timing down, you could instead buy a Courage Shell from the shop, giving you an easy win with a Power Smash and a Fire Flower or 2, which you should have if you were picking up items along the way. And once you defeat the Gold Fuzzy, the Horde goes away too. After emerging victorious, we head back into town, heal up, obtain coops, and head towards Hooktail's castle. where we have a lot of items to find in this area, but we're in no rush because we're going to be here at least 2 more times later on for side quests. The big standout on the first visit though is going to be the Power Bounce badge, which I'm going to have a lot of fun with, but it means I now have to talk about one of the least popular achievements in the set. Getting at least 15 power bounces in a battle. So, how hard is this one? Let's just put it this way. In Paper Mario 64, I hit the in-game cap of 101 power bounces on accident, and that was still easier than me actively trying to get 15 in TTYD. You get 2 simplifier badges later on in the game that make the action commands a little bit easier, and I would wait until you have both before you make any serious attempt at this achievement. Because if I'm understanding the TTYD frame data correctly, 15 power bounces with 2 simplifiers equipped means that bounces 11 through 15 all only have 1 frame windows. Or in other words, 2 simplifiers means you need 5 frame perfect inputs at the end. Only 1 simplifier increases that to 7 frame perfect inputs, and no simplifiers means you need 8 frame perfect inputs to get a 10-point achievement. So yeah, use both those simplifiers. But moving on, you may be thinking that the attack effects badge that we find in Hooktail's castle is going to make the boss a whole lot easier, right? Well, no way is RetroAchievements going to let us use something that powerful, so get ready to deal with her base 5 attack power, 1 defense, and ability to heal once, giving her an effective 30 HP. In addition to needing to hit hard with Power Smash and Shell Toss, we're going to be using some of those healing items that we picked up along the way. I didn't need to go back for a Courage Shell since putting Koops in the front and successfully guarding was a huge help, but I did need to use my star power for the first time, and I was also able to unlock an achievement for recovering a total of 10 HP and 6 FP in a single instance of Sweet Treat. But despite this being one of the harder battles in the Retro Achievement set, we still got it on the first try. But now it's time to head back, unlock our next area, get the contacts for Zesty, and most importantly, purchase and equip the Double Pain badge, which as the name implies, doubles the amount of damage that Mario takes from here on out. Again, this is not required for Retro Achievements outside of the final battle, and I'm only equipping it for a personal additional challenge. And the first thing that came to mind in regards to making this challenge more manageable is to upgrade Koops to Super Rank, because the Shell Shield ability is similar to a substitute in Pokemon. Because not only will I not take damage when I'm behind the Shell Shield, but if I take a really strong hit, that excess damage past the breaking point does not convert into direct damage. So on paper, as long as Mario has a Shell Shield up, he's practically invincible. Easier said than done though when so many bosses have multi-hit attacks or multiple attacks per turn. And as a result, Chapter 2 gets pretty interesting. The scattered items in the Boggly Woods are much easier to find than in Chapter 1, but shortly after being introduced to Flurry, we come across our first boss battle with Double Pain, and it was rough to say the least. Out of the 3 Shadow Sirens, Beldum has the least amount of HP, but I ended up coming 1 power bounce short of being able to one-hit KO her, and then I failed all 3 of my guard commands, causing Mario to faint. Now, in hindsight, I should have just reset to get a better first turn, ignoring the tattles and using a combo like Earth Tremor and Power Shell to sweep them quickly. But at the time, I figured that I had a livestream from Chapter 1, and that this would be one of the hardest Double Pain bosses anyways, so I just pressed on. Surely I won't come to regret that decision, right? After a bittersweet victory, we get Flurry and enter the tree. Among all the items here, the Charge Badge is definitely the big standout of optional ones that we want now. We also have 3 missable achievements we need to take care of. You may be familiar with the idea of fighting the Jabbies, but there's actually one that you can recruit into your ranks in the hidden shop area. One sign of a good Retro Achievement set is learning something new about a game you thought you knew pretty well, and this was one of those moments. And if you're like me and you always have to choose the mean option whenever possible, you may be worried that you missed your chance for the achievement, but don't worry, you can just leave and re-enter to reset the dialogue. Him being added to your ranks won't increase the counter, but he is there. Then at the end of the chapter during the escape sequence, you can't just ditch the Punies because we now have an achievement for bringing them all back to the entrance. This was my first time ever doing so, but it was pretty easy. But then we have the boss challenge, defeating Magnus von Grapple without defeating the hands when they detach. A fair challenge normally since many players would just instinctively use Earth Tremor, but with Double Pain, they hit like a truck, and Magnus can flip Koops if I don't guard properly. So one bad turn means I can no longer Shell Shield. With 30 HP and 1 defense, that's a lot of turns that I need to survive when he can theoretically hit me for a maximum of 20 HP per turn. Oh, by the way, if you have the Double Pain badge equipped and you get a triple Poison Mushroom, you just die. So now I'm currently outclassed, I don't have a Life Shroom, I can't leave the tree for gear, and I'm still on a time limit inside. I found out that the HP Drain item pierces for 5 damage, making it a better option than Power Smash, and the hidden shop sells that item, but I'm also low on gold, so I can't really consider it as an option. But as I was running out of ideas and it felt like hope was fading away, it finally hit me. The one thing I needed the entire time. Charge. His hands won't detach until falling below half health, and I can fend him off while keeping my health and shields up just fine in phase 1. So since charge stacks, I just have to use it over and over again while keeping him at greater than 15 health before unleashing a massive power smash. Not only will him detaching his arms use up his entire turn, but when the body falls, the arms will too. So I lower his HP to just above that halfway point, and then calculate how many charges I needed to get him into 2-hit KO range, allowing me to claim my achievements while still keeping the double pain badge equipped. And our reward is being able to unwind with the Bowser stage shortly after, where we have a simple missable for grabbing all 12 coins here. If you're like me, you thought that there were only 10 coins until this exact moment, but there are 2 hidden blocks that can only be hit as mini Bowser, so the set has once again taught me something new. Then progressing on to Glitzville, most of Chapter 3 will play out exactly the same. Since we get the Super Boots in this chapter, no backtracking is required to grab all the items, though the Ice Storm in the Major League locker room and the 2 star pieces in the office are both ones you want to grab sooner rather than later due to the restrictions around accessing those areas. I also make sure to prioritize grabbing the Last Stand badge because I know I'll be using it on my journey. Once our Yoshi hatches, there's a unique achievement tied to him. If you gulp a Poke enemy when it only has the head segment left, you'll automatically defeat it. Once again, something I never knew about the game before. As for the Glitz Pit itself, the battles weren't too much harder with double pain because we can heal in between each match, but only the champion's bed will restore star power. You definitely want to save often because we have multiple missable achievements during our rise to the top. When you get introduced to Sir Swoop, you'll want to save, and then suck around and find out by dropping your ranking all the way down to actually battle the Wings of Night. After getting the achievement, just reset the game and you won't have to climb back up. Then make sure that you win the battle during the Bowser ambush, which wasn't bad even with double pain thanks to Shell Shield and Power Smash, and then we have to win a battle after eating the poisonous cake and losing your partner, which may be a problem depending on when it appears and what your assigned win condition is. To clarify though, there are 2 cakes that appear. The first one heals you, and then the second one poisons your partner. A lot of people end up saving right after they see the first cake and then they come back, find out it gets eaten and begin to panic. Don't worry about that. The second one only appears after you accept the battle. In my case, I got the short end of the stick, but I was able to pull off some super guards and get it on the first attempt. Once we make it to Rock Hawk, we have a non-missable achievement for performing at least 20 stylish action commands. You don't get a full tutorial for these in the same sense that you learned about star power, but the mechanic is explained several times in passing. Each attack has different stylish options available to it, and by pressing A at the right time before, during, or after an action, you'll perform a stylish command and restore more star power. Because the opportunities vary between each type of attack, the easiest way to learn about these is by wearing the Timing Tutor badge, which will make an exclamation point appear when it's available. The Power Smash badge has 4 stylish opportunities available, so getting 20 for this achievement isn't too difficult. But again, this isn't missable, so feel free to save it for later if you need to. After winning and becoming the champion, immediately save before doing anything else, because the moment you go through the vent into the office, you're at a point of no return, and you have a missable achievement that can be a challenge if you're not prepared. Defeating Macho Grubba before he can use his fast status move twice, aka the message that says that more opportunities to attack are available. The easiest way to complete this is to stun him with either the clock out star power or a stopwatch item, but it's not a guaranteed stun. Once you stun him though, go all out on your attacks and it won't be too much of a challenge. If you need to though, another option is to grab both the Mega Rush Partner badge from Petalburg and the Quick Change badge from Dazzle to get Yoshi down to 1 HP prior to battle. Then from there, all you need to do is have Yoshi get swapped in on his turn to unleash a powerful ground pound, and then Mario will swap him out to keep him out of harm's way. It's not a strategy I ended up employing because you can definitely get 2 clockouts in a single battle thanks to the stylish commands, but it's a strategy worth mentioning just in case you're really struggling to get the stuns off. After completing Chapter 3, we have one really important missable before we begin Chapter 4. In order to obtain the maximum reward from Lumpy, you need to give him 300 coins before you encounter the Chapter 4 title screen, since that's the moment he departs before giving you a reward if applicable post Chapter 6. We got a decent chunk of money from Chapter 3, but unless you're playing the remaster, you probably don't have enough. So we fly right back to Glitzville and head over to the pit. But somehow Jolene managed to lose your records within the 5 minutes that we left her alone. So we battle our way to the top again, making sure to grab any titles that we missed the first time, and by the end, we have plenty of gold to not only pay for Lumpy, but also buy a hot dog, which is going to come in handy in a few minutes. After helping out Lumpy and beginning Chapter 4, let's eat Grandma, because you can only do this achievement during this chapter. All you need to do is give this resident some food, and in this case, I just gave the hot dog, but some like to grab the peach from the inn in this town. We also have a lot of items in this chapter, but because this isn't the remake which added a new warp pipe, you'll be heading back and forth between Twilight Town and Creepy Steeple multiple times anyways. We can get an achievement for finding and defeating an Amazing Daisy, and since we now have the Power Lift star power, we have an opportunity for another achievement by getting at least 3 attack and 3 defense in a single instance. It's not a hard achievement, but there is a bit of randomness, and it's kind of common to get 4 and 2 or 2 and 4 instead of 3 and 3. After defeating the boss the first time and losing your identity, we have a missable achievement for defeating the Atomic Boo with only Mario. And oh boy did all the stars align for this one. I got a successful clock out, got some good power bounces, and then got a star bingo to restore my depleted SP. Then to top it all off, a boo in the audience made me transparent. Then after getting a second successful clock out, this boss didn't stand a ghost of a chance. After heading back to town and getting Vivian, we proceed through the rest of the chapter, and then for the boss challenge, we actually have a pretty tough one on a double pain run. We have to defeat every single party member before defeating Dupless. And you know what? Fair enough. Mario rarely talks and then suddenly he won't shut up, but not a single party member was suspicious? I'm not buying it for 1 second, they were in on this too, the traitors must be dealt with. But this is a long battle, and while Goombella and Koops are manageable enough, by the time you reach Flurry and Yoshi, you'll probably be just 1 or 2 bad guard commands away from getting knocked out. Last stand, gradual healing, and any buffs, debuffs, or status effects that you can utilize will come in handy here. Also, since we got a life shroom earlier in the chapter, and we're now at a point where we can buy more, this boss becomes a prime candidate for using it. And once the life shroom gets factored in, this isn't too bad of a battle. And with chapter 4 complete, things are about to get much more interesting. If you watched my Retro Achievements video on the first Paper Mario, then you probably knew that I was going to be going for Danger Mode strats here as well, and we can finally enter a permanent state of Danger Mode. Because a double pain run wouldn't be as fun if I just maxed out my HP, right? But then much more importantly, we're going to begin the first part of a series of glitches that will allow us to permanently keep Flavio in our party. First we'll head to the Trouble Center, sneak around the backside and find the hidden entrance for a quick achievement, and then we'll accept the quest to find an elusive badge. The quest will bring us to Hooktail's castle, where we can not only find an item that will allow us to begin ultra-ranking our partners, but we'll find an attack FX badge, which we use to complete the quest and get Miss Mouse as a partner. And her overworld ability is what we're after. We head into the sewers, and find a spot where we normally wouldn't be able to progress past until we have the Ultra Hammer. But that's not going to stop us. By using Miss Mouse's overworld ability as we slowly inch Mario downwards, we can get the text box to appear as Mario falls into the water. Then by closing the text box when Mario's near the peak of his jump, you'll regain full control of him and you can steer him on top of the block, allowing you to access the pipes at chapter 5 and 6 early. All we need to do for now is activate them, and then we proceed like normal into chapter 5. And don't forget that once you get on the ship to start the chapter, if you don't have the Hammerman badge from Charlie, you can't complete the boss achievement because you can't go back until afterwards. Technically this doesn't apply to me because of the glitch I performed, but for 99% of you, this title screen is the point of no return. Once we arrive on the island, you can find Wacka here and you can hit him until he disappears to get an achievement, but there's no rush to do so because the item that he drops is pretty good. Once we reach the point where Flavio temporarily joins a party, he'll normally leave once you open up the Pirate's Grotto. But we have the perfect storm of events from the side effects of the Miss Mouse glitch to keep him in our party permanently. We can take the pipe back into the sewers, and then go to Poshley Heights through the other pipe. Once you approach the museum, a cutscene from near the end of Chapter 6 plays, meaning that the game now considers you to be in a Chapter 6 state. And fortunately for us, the game assumes that if you made it this far into Chapter 6, then surely you opened up the grotto in Chapter 5, so now it's just magically open for us. Therefore, we don't trigger the cutscene that causes him to leave. However, be warned that Flavio still isn't permanently in our party yet, and we'll talk more about that when the time comes. For now though, you may notice the engagement ring appearing a bit earlier than intended, and I would advise against messing with it. Heading back to the main story, the rest of Chapter 5 up until Cortez plays out like normal, and we have quite a few hidden items, some of which I never knew about before. Which means that now it's time to talk about the boss achievement from a fundamental design perspective. I do like the spirit of this challenge. It's a fun idea, and I think it should ultimately stay. But looking at the comments, a lot of people end up not knowing how to get Hammerman until it's too late for them, forcing a second playthrough. On one hand, I do agree that to some extent it's on an achievement hunter to read descriptions and research missables if they really want to master a set in a single run, but I do think that the best argument here is that the conditions for this achievement don't really need to exist in its current state in the first place. And what I mean by that is that you can perfectly maintain the spirit of the achievement by simply having it say, use only the hammer and use only Bobbery. By not forcing the Hammerman badge as part of the achievement, the default player has a slightly harder challenge, and it rewards people who had the foresight to get the Hammerman badge early or to upgrade Bobbery. I feel like that's a pretty decent everybody wins solution here, but that's just my 2 coins on the matter. I still enjoy the achievement, but I do think that the criticisms of it are valid. After defeating Cortez and obtaining the Crystal Star, you may instinctively want to proceed to the rebattle with Lord Crump, but for Flavio related reasons, we have to skip this, because again, he's not permanently in the party just yet. So if you defeat Crump, Flavio will leave and then everything will return back to normal. So this is the best time to back up your save and copy it to another slot, because an unfortunate side effect of permanent Flavio is that you can't master the entire retro achievement set in a single playthrough. So with our save backed up, back to Flavio. We ignore the invasion for now and abandon the crew as we head back into the sewers, which leaves us with one major problem remaining. We can't begin the events to get the ticket to start Chapter 6 because we haven't cleared Chapter 5, and we can't do so without losing Flavio. However, it is absolutely mandatory that we get onto the train, that way we can get to Riverside Station for the Ultra Boots. But once again, we really do have the perfect storm of side effects from these glitches that allow us to make everything possible. We go back to Poshley Heights again, and we can once again re-trigger the museum cutscene to enter a Chapter 6 state. And story-wise, this first visit to Poshley Heights before you grab the Crystal Star is the only moment in the entire game where you can go on and off the train without a ticket check. And while it normally wouldn't go anywhere until after grabbing the star, since it's your first visit onto the train, the game assumes that you're just beginning Chapter 6 and teleports you back to the beginning, allowing you to play like normal and keep Flavio in your party permanently. The biggest downside here though is that we can never truly obtain the ticket to reboard after this chapter, meaning that several achievements now become missable or are completely unobtainable. However, it's a small price to pay in order to keep the greatest party member of all time. It also makes a stowaway sequence a whole lot more interesting because we never got the ticket, so Mario and his crew are all stowaways too. And speaking of stowaway, they did in fact make reading the Ghost Diary to get a game over an achievement. After obtaining the Ultra Boots and finding every single hidden item in Riverside Station, while also making sure to complete as many side quests as possible now that they're missable in a Flavio run, the retro achievement for this boss battle turns it into a more traditional turn-based RPG, where we can't use any action commands. Naturally, this means unequip the All or Nothing badge if you have it on, and no tattling once again. You can also buy items at the nearby shop to help you out if needed, and I'll be honest here, this was by far my least favorite of the boss achievements. It's not that it's difficult, it's just plain. Almost like they were struggling a bit to come up with a new challenge. Not too much else to it, so after defeating the boss, we get off the train, grab every hidden item, trigger the museum entrance cutscene for the third and final time, grab the L emblem badge inside the museum, and if you also have the W emblem badge from Charlie, you can combine the two to get an achievement. After obtaining the Crystal Star, you'll notice that Flavio now appears on every screen, and I mean every single screen. How kind of him to check up on Peach for us and make sure she's doing okay. He's just so happy to see her alive and well. Thankfully, he manages to slip by unnoticed after Peach's capture, and reunites with Mario before we get ready to go to the moon. Naturally, this is most people's least favorite part of the entire game because you go on a wild goose chase to get to the cannon, but if you're playing the remake, you do have access to a new warp pipe room. After getting the Ultra Hammer, we now have access to every single location in the sewers, giving us a lot to find. Then the path to the far outpost gives us the first batch of Chapter 7 items to find, and lastly, we can tackle the achievement for experiencing the rare allergic effect in battle, something that many players might not know about. The best way to do this is create a save, sleep at the inn repeatedly to get a bunch of space food, and then eat them all in battle until you proc the effect. Then depending on your current needs, either reset to keep the money, or keep the inn visits for a future achievement. We'll talk more about that later, but for now, we're off to the moon, home of the X-Naut Fortress, and the best song in the entire game. You definitely want to get all the hidden items here now because in my opinion it can be a bit of a pain to backtrack here later on, but the fortress itself isn't as bad because there's a teleporter. Similar to Schwung Fortress, you have a quiz that you need to lose before winning the battle afterwards for a missable achievement. Despite the fact that I'm in danger mode against enemies that pierce defense, this wasn't a difficult one at all. The best part about this area though is the 8-bit Mario Easter egg, which is not only an achievement, but has an interesting side effect when Flavio is in your party. Once you leave the room, a second Flavio will replace your partner, and you can still use your overworld abilities. After grabbing all the hidden items here and making it to the boss, we have no secondary challenges for retro achievements, which I'm not complaining about. As we start heading into Chapter 8, we can destroy all of the fire bars for an achievement. Remember though, unlike Paper Mario 64, you can die from overworld hazards in TTYD. Gloomtail ended up not being an issue with Double Pain thanks to Shell Shield and Quick Change, and after you win, don't forget that there are 2 missable items. There's a hidden wall that you can bomb leading to an Ultra Shroom and Gem and Jelly. If for some reason you don't want these items, make sure to not immediately toss them and leave or else it won't count as collected. The point of no return for these items are once you complete all the puzzles in the observatory, which lowers the stairs. Also, after the rebattle with the Shadow Sirens, which was a lot easier the second time around, there are 2 hidden items exclusive to the remaster. Once we make our way down the stairs, we have a few more hidden blocks inside, and then we have the single worst achievement in the game, non-contractual boss immunity. You have to defeat either Bowser or Cammy with a showstopper ability, which is purely RNG. And if you fail it too many times and run out of resources to survive the battle, you're gonna have to rebattle Gratis first just to even reattempt this. I lost track of how many attempts it took me, but I'm just glad that I got it in the first battle, because I've seen people pull 40 plus misses in a row and have to redo the battle several times. After finally pulling it off, we save and stock up on items and prepare for the final boss. For retro achievements, we have to win it with a double pane badge equipped, so no change from my end. For danger mode, the big thing you want to focus on is advancing to the second phase as quickly as possible. Once she becomes invincible, you actually need to hit her for 0 damage multiple times. So if you time everything just right, you can use Bobbery's Bob-Omb Squad to immediately go through the invincibility portion. But I didn't think of that idea at the time. After surviving long enough to make it through phase 1, Flavio runs off to warn everybody that Mario needs help, before making it back just in time to help us with phase 2. In addition to keeping Shell Shield up, Fiery Jinx is a good attacking move, Shell Slam can pierce defenses if she buffs up, Stampede is a good multi-hit, multi-target attack, and Rally Wink will let Mario move twice. Additionally, the Feeling Fine and Feeling Fine partner badges that we got in the X-Not Fortress can help prevent statuses that the Shadow Queen can inflict, making the battle easier. It wasn't a pretty battle, but it was still a slow and steady first attempt clear. After emerging victorious, Flavio escorts all of your partners home, but then a jealous Goombella tries to drown him. She thought she was successful, but to Goombella's disappointment, the real Flavio had actually moved in with Mario and Luigi. Unlike Paper Mario 64, the Thousand Year Door lets you continue playing after defeating the final boss, so we have a lot of loose ends to tie up. For the Trouble Center, we can't 100% it on a Flavio run because we can't get back onto the train, but there are still a few that will do now. Try to Find Me, Help My Daddy, Important Thing, and I Must Have That Book will all reward cards for the Pianta Parlor, which will unlock mini-games, giving us access to a number of achievements. Winning first place in the paper game is straightforward enough, and then our next two are going to be speedruns, 2:13:20 in the tube game, and 1:33:15 in the boat game. The times themselves aren't really a big deal, it's just a matter of getting used to the controls, since you may not initially have a feel for the wide turning radius of the tube, or the whirlpool hitbox for the boat. But then Plain Game has 2 achievements tied to it, a distance of 375.15, and completing a round with 40 or more tokens collected. Holding left at the very start will give you a slight height boost. From there are 2 ways to maximize your travel. Either minimize height by holding left and then only intermittently tapping right to move forward, or my preferred method, maximizing your horizontal speed by dipping right just far enough to speed up, before returning to neutral so you don't sink. Where the 40 tokens challenge lies though, is that you not only have to make it past the giant -20 pad, but you have to either crash or unfold with B at just the right time to land on the ×3 multiplier. It did take a few attempts, but it really wasn't that bad. And then our final Pianta Parlor achievement is for getting a 777 on the slots. It doesn't appear to be random, but realistically you're just going to keep mashing A until it pops. Our next achievement isn't explicitly tied to the Pianta Parlor, but it can be cheesed by it, restoring at least 3 bars worth of star power in a single action. While I could spend the next few minutes explaining every single factor that affects star power restoration, there's a much easier way to do this. Save your game, sell a bunch of badges, use the coins to buy tokens, use the tokens to buy super appeals, and then unleash a massive appeal in battle to easily get this achievement before resetting to get all your badges back. Then after tying up any loose ends with combat achievements, we have to hit every stylish command in a single session. Not too hard, especially with the timing tutor badge equipped, but I definitely learned about several new stylish opportunities in the process, in part because I've never used some of these moves until now. After getting this achievement, Miss Mouse takes center stage for our next one, stealing an item from an enemy that doesn't have one. If you use Kiss Thief on an enemy that isn't visibly holding an item, you get an 18% chance to grab an item from their drop table. And if you just so happen to grab an item and the achievement doesn't pop, it doesn't mean that the retro achievement is bugged, but rather you may have unknowingly encountered a very rare in-game bug that prevents an item from being visible. Speaking of bugged, our next achievement is one that I originally thought was bugged, but it turns out that I just completely misunderstood it, benefiting from eating a poison mushroom. If you have the Feeling Fine badge equipped and you eat a poison mushroom, there's a 50-50 chance to either half your current HP or heal you to max. But that's not what this is referring to at all. You can occasionally eat a poison mushroom when you're not at max HP and end up getting healed instead, and it has nothing to do with Feeling Fine for this achievement. And while you're cooking up those poison mushrooms for this achievement, you can chip away at cooking up every possible recipe from Zesty as well. And a wiki's worth 1,000 words, so I'm just going to include a link in the description. In the remaster, you do have one additional recipe with the hot dog and the hot sauce, based on existing in-game dialogue from the original, which I thought was a nice touch. Since you'll be buying a lot of items for the recipes, you'll be partway done with the achievement for obtaining every single shop point reward. The single most efficient way to get this though, is to just buy a bunch of dried shrooms for 2 coins and then sell them all back for 1. The sell prices of the rewards will balance itself out and ultimately cost you next to nothing to reach this achievement. But after this, we are still nowhere near done spending our money yet, because we have not 1, but 2 NPCs where you have to pay for stories and information respectively. We also have to buy all 5 volumes of the Super Luigi books. And then we still have more money to spend, because there's a unique cutscene that occurs after staying at any inn for a total of 50 times. And once again, I never knew about this before, so it was pretty neat to encounter. After tying up any remaining loose ends, we just have a single achievement left, completing the Pit of 100 Trials without any star power. No big deal though, I got all my danger badges and my evasion boosting, so I'm just gonna... Oh, I can't use those either. While a 5 HP pit with double pain sounds tough, it turns out that this was incredibly easy. Remember those simplifier badges from the Power Bounce achievement? We're gonna equip both of them again, and put any remaining BP into quick change and passive HP and FP recovery. Pack a few failsafe items and things to help you with Bonetail, and don't forget that we have several pit-related troubles, and a number of exclusive enemies to tattle that won't appear anywhere else. Our main partner of choice here is going to be... Flurry. Gale Force has a base % chance to blow away an enemy, modified by the level difference of Mario versus that enemy. Considering that we already have to get Mario to level 30 for retro achievements, and the fact that a lot of pit enemies are surprisingly prone to Gale Force, this is by far the easiest way to clear the pit, and you still get experience points from the battle. Those 2 simplifiers make it incredibly easy to fill up the gauge, and if you end up having bad luck on an attempt, you can easily run away because of those same simplifiers. Add those passive recovery badges, and you likely won't even need to tap into your items. It almost feels wrong that this is the easiest way to complete the Pit of 100 Trials, but I'm not complaining. Once you reach floor 99, remember to change your badge loadout for Bonetail. The Feeling Fine badges and Quick Change are a must for me, and the rest went into passive recovery and conserving FP, followed by attack buffs. Shell Shield keeps Mario safe, Fiery Jinx can inflict the burn status on Bonetail, and Lip Lock pierces defense while also healing Flurry. Not too much else to this one. I completely overprepared and didn't even need to tap into any of my emergency items, making this a nice and calm but satisfying way to master the set. But we may as well tackle one additional task for fun. Winning the Happy Lucky Lottery. Long story short, the entire thing is rigged. It's solely based on the amount of time that's passed. So we buy our ticket, come back in 335 to 395 days, and then collect our grand prize. Overall, I enjoyed this set a lot, and although some parts are a bit grindy, it's just the nature of the game itself. One of my favorite things about Retro Achievements is learning new things about my favorite games, and this set absolutely delivers in that department. The boss battle challenges add a new layer of strategy without being absurdly hard or restrictive even for a less experienced player. Moving on to the more critical parts, I've already said my piece on how I would prefer to rework the Cortez challenge, but as for the Power Bounce achievement, yeah, it's hard, but I was consistently hitting 15 jumps by the end. And looking at the frame data, I really don't know what that magic sweet spot number would be to where you don't completely trivialize the challenge. So overall, I'm relatively indifferent towards this one. The only achievement that sticks out like a sore thumb to me is non-contractual boss immunity. I understand it's to teach you a fun fact about the battle, but it's pure luck for minimal purpose, and rarely will the odds ever be in your favor for a speedy unlock. Now, I'll gladly defend the existence of a purely random achievement for a rare and powerful item, but this one, not so much. At the end of the day though, these are relatively small blemishes on an otherwise wonderful set, meaning I not only recommend beating this game, but going the extra mile for that mastery badge in 100% as well. As far as TTYD hacks go, there's one that has a set currently, and there's a future release that I'm really looking forward to, so you can definitely expect more Paper Mario content in the future. But for now, it's time to close the book on this adventure. Don't forget to subscribe for more Retro Achievements content, and until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day.